Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Homeschool Minnesota. My name is Dayle Annand. I'm really excited to have John Stamper with us again. This is your third time on our podcast, John. I'm super excited to have you back. How are you?
I'm doing great. Excited to be back. Excited to talk about PE.
Yes. Yeah, it's going to be a fun topic today. I get a lot of questions from homeschooling moms as I go out and travel around Minnesota and other places and talk to moms. And one of the main conversations I see a lot on social media and with them is just, what do you do for PE? And a lot of them just kind of, they do what I did with my kids is they just go play outside, PE. But, there's a lot more to it than that. And I just want to talk to you. First of all, just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure. Yeah. So I was homeschooled. I started off as a homeschooler way back in the 90s. I'm the youngest of four siblings. So we had built in, play buddies, already. So that was awesome. And we grew up out in very rural Indiana. So we had tons of space to run and play, when we were kind of done with our academics. Mm-hmm. Then I eventually became a teacher and a coach. So that was kind of my thing, was teaching and coaching. I did that for 13 years. I went on to get my master's in leadership and sport management because I thought, I love sports. I love coaching. I'll probably do this forever. That's been changed a little bit, but I'm still doing PE here. That's kind of been my world, was teaching, coaching, being involved with groups and sports. It's just something I'm really into. It's kind of my natural habitat. But since 2021, I have not been in the classroom. I've written about that in my books, but I haven't been teaching in the traditional setting for a couple of years now. I've been fortunate to have this opportunity through Masterbooks, the academy, the online academy, to create some PE courses for homeschoolers and to write a couple books. So it's been an awesome couple of years, something I never expected to happen, but have kind of looking back and kind of see how God has kind of orchestrated things and opened doors of opportunity. So I'm very grateful to be here. Always excited to talk about it and to talk with you.
Well, I'm excited too. I think that, for those of you who don't know, you can check out the two previous episodes, which will be linked in the description of this podcast. John has written two books, one called Conflicted, and that's about his eye-opening experience in the Chicago public school districts, and talks a lot about what happens behind the scenes. And then he also has Courage to Stand, which is an amazing book about different people throughout history, but even more so just even now in this present day and age, who have taken very courageous stands for God and what is right and kind of the outcome of their stories. And so check those out. You can check out those podcast episodes that we have from before. But today we're here to talk about Masterbooks Academy and your PE classes. And I'm really excited to talk about them because, like I said, it's something that we often kind of get lax in as homeschoolers. So why don't we start with just what started this whole idea of doing PE?
Sure. So it really started during COVID, right? In March of 2020, I was still teaching. I was in Indiana at the time, and I was an elementary school PE teacher. I loved it. I had been doing that for about 9 years or so at that time, and was really getting good at it, right? And then, boom, everything shut down, and I never actually went back to that school. We were closed down, but we still had to kind of try our best to really give our students something to do for the remainder of that school year, April and May, basically. So what I did was I created a website, and it was really my own homeschool curriculum, but only for PE, because I knew my students needed something to do at home, but then really the whole country, we're all in the same boat where, well, most of the country anyway, at least in public schools, they were, at home. So I thought this could be a great resource for families all over the country. And it became a profitable website really over the summer, just a couple months. So then I go into Chicago public schools for 1 year. My wife and I moved around the city a little bit, and I had to get a new job. But when I left Chicago public schools, I thought, well, what am I going to do now? So I reached out to Randy Pratt at Masterbooks and said, hey, I have this online PE curriculum for homeschoolers. I noticed you guys don't really have anything like that. Would you like to kind of work together? And he said, absolutely. We've been looking for something like this. So I basically redid the whole curriculum, the whole online platform, and have even added a couple more courses. So what we have right now through the Masterbooks Academy, there are 4 different PE courses, basically based on your age. Kindergarten, first grade, second, third, fourth through sixth, and then seventh and eighth. They're all PE, but they're different based on your level. There's a strength and conditioning course, which is kind of for like teenagers, middle school, high school age. And then there's an introduction to geocaching course, which is only a 9-week course, but I think that's like a great summer course, or maybe like an additional course if you need something to kind of fill up some time or some activities. And that's a really fun one because you can do that all around the world. There are people all around the world doing that one, and that's fun.
Yeah, that is fun. I've seen like websites about that and read about
Yeah.
it, and it just sounds like so much fun.
Yeah. It's really just how to kind of get started. And once you get started, it's
kind of
addicting.
addicting.
It's pretty straightforward, but it's fun. You can do it
Yeah.
anywhere. If you're traveling, you stop at a rest area, there's probably a geocache there. You'd be surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. So tell us a little bit about, okay, so let's just talk about just what do you do in a PE class online that you can do in your own home or in your backyard or whatever?
Yeah, sure. So I'll just talk about the physical education courses specifically, and those cover K through 8 again. Well, I knew that I'm talking with homeschool families. I was a homeschool family. I grew up in very rural Indiana, and we didn't have a lot of stuff. I didn't have lots of, we didn't even own a basketball hoop for half of my life, or let alone a basketball and things like that. So I can totally relate, I think, to a lot of families out there. Not everyone is rural, I know that, but I had to kind of keep that in mind. How can families focus on like skill development without all the equipment? So that was always at the front of my mind when I was presenting lessons. So PE focuses on really two things: skill development, kind of leaning toward like sports and the different skills associated with different sports, and then physical fitness, exercising, something that you can have for the rest of your life, right? So those are the two focuses. So it's a 36-week course. So basically, a traditional school year, and every week is a different focus. So maybe the focus will be basketball, and this week we're going to focus on basketball. There's going to be some skills that I'm going to teach you, maybe dribbling, but then there's also going to be a fitness activity, something maybe like a, upper body, lower body, some cardio, walking or jogging. So both of those topics are going to be addressed. You're going to have some skills being developed, and you're also going to be exercising. All right. And based on your level, K1, 2, 3, the skills will kind of advance. Kind of the older you get, you're going to get those more advanced skills. So that's really how the PE courses are set up. Now you might say, well, what if I don't have a basketball? What if we only have grass and we don't have, anywhere to bounce a ball? Well, you do what I did when I was young, is maybe roll up a pair of socks, or maybe find a Nerf ball or a foam ball or something maybe that you have laying around the house. Roll up a towel and duct tape it, anything that you can kind of be creative enough. God gave us this wonderful mind where we can really use our imagination. And I encourage students to do that. Be creative. Look around the house, look around outside, see what you can come up with, something that's roundish, that you can use as a basketball. It's not the equipment, it's the skills that we're working on that's important.
Right.
Yeah. So that creativity is really, really important. If you're going to take this course, really tap into that creativity.
Yeah. And I find over Christmas, my husband, we have 2 nephews who are teenage. Well, one is in middle school, the other one's in high school, but we found a basketball that when you bounce it indoors, it doesn't make the noise. So if you're a mom who can't do that, there are basketballs. We found it at Walmart. It wasn't very expensive, and that was their Christmas gift. And their mom tells us they play it constantly. And it's great because it doesn't make noise.
Yeah, those are relatively new. They're only a few years old. So yeah, that's an awesome resource.
Yeah. So tell us why PE is important. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why it would just, gets their energy out, but there's other reasons for it. And can you talk to us about the science behind it?
Oh man, there's so many reasons. Yeah. I mean, in no particular order. One, just a lifetime fitness, right? We've probably all heard the statistics about, childhood obesity, for example. Mm-hmm. So trying to combat that issue and all the other issues that come along with that. So, being active, a regular exercise, a lifestyle that promotes activity, lifelong activity, not just during the school year. That's really important for that reason. And then you talk about, not just the physical skills that you learn, but the lifetime skills. Like, when you're trying to learn how to dribble a basketball, it can be difficult at first. Maybe you get frustrated because you can't get that rhythm down. But then as you continue to work, you continue to practice, you persevere, you don't give up. And then, eventually you say, hey, I got it figured out. That applies to life as well. And that applies spiritually. We talk about perseverance sometimes in the Bible, and, that physical lesson of dribbling a basketball can be applied to life and to our spiritual walk with the Lord. Sometimes we go through difficult times where maybe we fall down, we get up, we fall down, we get up, but we learn, through dribbling that basketball, that if we persevere, we can make it, we can get there. And, the great news is that when we're walking with the Lord, we will get there. We have the ultimate helper, We have the Holy Spirit helping us. There's all kinds of connections that you can make. And I try to do that in the lessons, depending on what we're working on that week. I always try to relate it to life or to our walk with the Lord. That's one thing I love about sports, is that I can gain life lessons from it. So those are just a couple things that we can take away from PE and why it's important and necessary.
Well, and I think too, it also helps you like for those families who maybe have neurodiverse children, or children who are struggling with like reading or math. Sometimes the physical motion in a PE course, when you're actually learning skills and you're actually focused on something, it'll help connect those neurons in your brain that can also help you with your reading and your math scores. And it does help get the wiggles out. I mean, if you have an ADHD kid, PE is important.
Yeah. So to your point, really with every lesson, if we're working on a particular skill, I always kind of give students and families, control over, here's one way that you can simplify this activity. If you're really struggling, you can't quite get it, try this simplified approach. Or if you got this right away and you need like a little extra challenge, maybe try something like this. There's a flexibility built in to every lesson, because I understand homeschool families, we're all over, everyone's different. Right? No one is exactly the same. So I totally understand that.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's helpful to families.
Yeah. And when you sign up for a year of PE through Masterbooks Academy, you get the full year. I mean, it's broken down into 4 quarters. And at the end of each quarter, you do the Presidential Fitness Challenge, correct?
Yeah, that's the fitness component of the course. If you look at one particular week, what you're going to have is a short instructional video. For me, probably about 5 minutes or so. I try to keep them as short as possible. So it's not like you're staring at the computer working out all day. I'll give you the short video. I'll demonstrate things. I'll explain things. And then along with that video, you're going to have a written lesson plan that tells you, what you might need. And so you can kind of either take that piece of paper, jot down some of the important notes, and get outside and get practicing. So it's not something where you're staring at a screen all day trying to exercise, not at all. But there is a little video instruction with every single lesson.
Yeah. And for those of us who live in a state where we have to keep good records, Minnesota and other states, if you know who you are, and PE is a required course, that is awesome to show that you are actually following an actual plan. It'll make it just does help. But even if you don't have to do that, just the fact that you're being intentional about PE and not just kind of just throwing it off. And if your child is already involved in a sport, PE is only going to help them with their skills. So if they're already on a basketball team or on a hockey team, in Minnesota, hockey's huge, football or whatever, you wind up still learning like all kinds of like fine motor skills, large motor skills, strength training. Like you were talking about strength training for high school. Can you give a little bit of an idea of what that's like for high school students?
Yeah. So the strength and conditioning course, now this is kind of a separate course. The idea was that if you took the PE courses, kindergarten on through, well, what happens when you get through 8th grade? There's no more PE. That's kind of what the strength and conditioning course is for. It's kind of the next level. It's a little more advanced. You're going to learn some more advanced concepts. But that to me is right in my wheelhouse, coming from a coach. I coached varsity sports for 13 years.
Okay.
And so I was in the weight room just as much as I was out practicing the skill, like say track and field. The weight room was a huge part of every season and in the off season. So you got to have both hand in hand. Now, what if you're like not an athlete? Well, that's good, because that's fine. Not everyone wants to play a sport their whole life. And, I don't play really sports anyway. I kind of just exercise for fun. It's just a lifestyle. Well, that's also a major part of the strength and conditioning course, is just general fitness and knowing how to take ownership for the rest of your life. So the idea with the strength and conditioning course was the first half of the year, I'm really going to guide you week by week. But as we move through, I'm slowly going to kind of let go of the reins and put that more on the student progressively. Not too much too fast, so that students kind of get comfortable putting down their own ideas on paper. And I give them the structure and the format and how to do that. But really, it's me kind of handing over ownership to the student. Now it's for you to take control and you come up with the plan. So their creativity can really just run wild, which I love. So that's really the goal at the end of that strength and conditioning course, is that you're going to be capable. You're going to have the know-how, how to create your own training program based on whatever your goals are. Say you're a distance runner and you want to run your first 5K. I'm going to teach you throughout this course what systems in the body are going to be really important for that, how to train those systems. And I'm going to give you sample workouts. Or maybe you're just not you're not into sports and you just like walking or hiking or things like that. I'm gonna talk about that as well, and what systems are important and how those systems function together and independently, and how you can create a program for these goals. I tried to make a well-rounded program to cover as many individuals as possible, as many interests. So I really do think that there's something for everybody in these courses. And I think that I've built in enough creativity and wiggle room so that you can kind of make it your own.
I think it sounds to me like what your goal is to create it to be a lifestyle. Like this is something that you just do from the time you're, when you're in high school, you start to take on, like, this is what my life is going to look like, especially when you're homeschooling, because you take on a lot of the responsibility of your own education and a lot of more independence.
Yeah, for sure. That's certainly the goal, is that I just want to show you, working out or exercising doesn't have to be in a big gym with a million people. It can be, but it could just be at home, with your surroundings. And it doesn't have to be this big, scary, daunting task. It can actually be fun. So I try to make things fun, because when it's fun, you're more likely to do it. So that's really kind of the encouragement throughout is, hey, this is fun. If you're capable to get up and move, God's blessed you. Absolutely. Let's take advantage of that. Let's, honor that gift we've been given to be able to move and to do these things with our physical bodies. So these are just constant reminders I give the students throughout the lessons.
Okay. Yeah. I think the thing that I want to impress is that oftentimes as homeschooling families, we work really hard on the mind and the spirit, and we kind of just blow past the body a little bit. And we have to remember that God created us to be all three, and all three should be very functional and working. The strength that you have spiritually should be reflected in the strength that you have in other ways. And when you lose that strength, it's really hard to get it back physically. And so to maintain it is what's really, really important, just like with anything.
Yeah. And you know what? One really cool idea, I think, just kind of to what you're talking about, in the strength and conditioning course, for example, I think every 9 weeks there's a video called Coach's Corner, where I just kind of talk to the students, and we stop and we reflect on the previous 9 weeks. What have we been learning? What's the big picture? Trying to just pause and kind of absorb it all. But it's always tied to a biblical lesson. So we do that every 9 weeks, and it's pretty simple. I give a verse or two, and I ask the students to read it, talk to their parents, talk to their family members about what it might mean, or kind of your take on things. You could do that while you're doing a family walk, a family bike ride, maybe while you're on a jog, or anything and everything. These are parts of the course that you can do out and about, doing a leisurely walk with your family. But, it's not about the walk. It's about that conversation that you're having about God's word. That's the really important thing. But hey, you're getting your steps in while you're doing it, So I think that's a really cool idea. I do walks with my wife and my son regularly, and that's like the favorite part of our day, is just getting out there. We're not really out there to exercise, but it's beneficial, and we're talking about things. So I just love that concept. So I would really encourage families, just to work it, fit it into your life. You don't have to live my life or what I'm promoting on the screen, but take the course and fit it into your life, and, however it's going to work. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much, John. I really do appreciate it. And again, like as always, in the description of this podcast, you will find all the links to everything we've talked about, including how to get involved with Masterbooks Academy, John Stamper's PE course, which is something you really need to check out, because and just like all of Masterbooks Academy's classes, you can try it out for free for a week or two, just to see if it's something that you're looking for before you commit, which I love about Masterbooks.
Yeah. Yeah, and if people are just interested, you're not sure if you want to go ahead and buy the whole course. Like you said, if you go to the Masterbooks Academy website and you search for me and the courses, there are a lot of free videos as well, where I'll talk you through kind of how the course works. There are some sample lessons you can try out for free. So give it a shot, try one, see if you like it. And if you do, go ahead and buy the course. But yeah, there's a lot of free resources.
It's one more thing, Mom, you don't have to deal with. And isn't that fun? Because PE is probably the last thing you want to deal with when you're also having to figure out math, science, history, geography, all the things.
Yeah, I apologize in advance if, your kids are, accidentally throw a ball through a window or something like that. Sorry.
Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Sorry.
That's why we have insurance.
Yeah,
it's all
hopefully
good.
No broken bones or anything like that.
All right. Well, thank you so much, John. I appreciate your time today, and just have a wonderful day.
Yeah. Thanks for having me again. Always great to talk to you, and take care, everybody.
All right.